Thank you so much for joining us on the Dwelling Show. I'm your host, Ola Dantes. I've got the amazing Todd Miller with us today. Hey, Todd, how's it going?
Hey, Olin, I'm doing great. How's your morning starting off today?
Pretty fantastic. Even better now that I've got you on the show. So you have a remarkable story. Cannot wait to dig in with you. Um, became financially free at 35. Wow, that's what I'm talking about. So just kind of tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are, what you've been doing, and kind of what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, so I guess my money story really started back when I was about 19 years old. And it really started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that really opened my eyes up to, what was possible with money and with real estate and the freedom that you could create. And that really got me excited about, what I would be able to accomplish in life, and that, I wasn't necessarily going to have to sit behind a desk working for the next 40 years and, hopefully be able to retire one day. This was an alternate path to be able to do things differently, to free up time and be able to do things, differently and have some unique life experiences. And that sounded a lot more fun to me than slaving away at a corporate job for a long time. So that really got me going down the path of personal finance and the different vehicles that could really help me achieve this goal of financial freedom. And of course, a lot of people love real estate, and I jumped on the bandwagon too, and got to work on learning about it and finding some mentors and buying some houses, and eventually being able to quit my job so I could go travel the world for about a year. And then of course, due to the pandemic, got had to fly home and been home for a while now. But yeah, I mean, it really, for me, it all started with Rich Dad Poor Dad and really the 4-hour work week. And those two combined really just kind of blew my mind, and that things could just be done a lot differently than what I had learned growing up in school, and just being able to live an alternate life. And it's made all the difference that I went down that path.
So I've read one of two books that you mentioned, right? I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad. As a matter of fact, I strive to read that book, once every single year. Um, the 4-hour work week, I have an issue, a personal issue, obviously, with the title, right? Of course, it sounds misleading, right? I haven't read it just because of the title. But that's not my question. My question is, what are your so you read this one book, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then that kind of just literally took your life on a different path, right? What are your thoughts on reading? Say there's somebody in their 20s, maybe 30s, they're just kind of starting out life, and maybe they have probably really haven't read, a book like a business or self-development book, and they're just like, oh, I don't really read. I stopped reading when I went to university. What are your thoughts on just reading in general?
I was the same way. I really didn't like reading growing up. It was more of, hey, you got to read this book over your summer break and get ready to take a test on it, the first day back in school, in high school. And I hated that. That wasn't fun. And it was always books, that I really wasn't interested in and wasn't excited about. So really, I think, starting off with getting involved in reading is really finding a subject that you're curious about. And for me, that just happened to be, to be real estate and retirement, and making money and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think once you really find that subject that you're interested in, then reading's a lot more fun, and it opens your eyes up a lot more. I can remember, reading textbooks and things even in college and high school, and you'd literally spend 20 minutes reading, and then you kind of like come back to it and you'd be like, what I just read?
Right.
You'd be kind of like
If
sleep
you don't
reading
if you don't
almost.
fall asleep, that is, if you don't fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's a lot different, when you're reading something that you're curious about. You're really engaged in the subject matter, and you're really like, huh, that's an interesting thought. I've never really thought about the world that way, or didn't know that that was even a possibility. So, finding that subject matter and just kind of diving into it, I think it's natural once you find the right fit with what you're interested in.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines is, in life, you just don't know what you don't know, right? Google knows a ton, but there are also a lot of content in good old books, right? That is just might not be on Google. So I think, yeah, I'm an avid reader. I love reading, so I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. So you mentioned, kind of in your intro about, you started buying real estate, finding mentors, buying houses. So can you just kind of take us back to that time? So, you read the book and then you did stuff, in this case, real estate, buying stuff. How did you buy the very first one? Because I think that could be like, that's kind of one of the barriers for people thinking, how do I actually do the very first one?
Yeah, the first one's always the hardest. It's always, ripping that band-aid or taking that first step is always the challenge. So luckily for me, I got involved in some local meetups and some local real estate clubs and met some people that, that owned hundreds of houses. And, they did this, multiple times a month. So it wasn't a big deal to buy a house. It was just, what they did. So they had a degree of comfort level, and they had a degree of knowledge about what they were doing. And I was just a young guy, just hoping to figure out how to make a couple $100 on a house. And I linked up with the people that were professionals that were doing it full time and had been doing it for decades, and really knew what they were doing, and were willing to share their knowledge and kind of taking me under their wing and show me the process. So I ended up getting involved in my first deal through one of my mentors. He had a deal that he passed on to me, and then when we closed on it, he was there to help kind of hold my hand and go through the rehab process with me, and show me some different construction techniques and things like that. And then eventually, they helped me go through the process of finding my first resident and getting somebody in there. So it was a really detailed experience that somebody was there with me every step of the way, and that's what I found most valuable, is that I was a young guy, didn't know a whole lot, but had a whole lot of ambition, and this person was there to kind of walk me, hold my hand, make sure that I was going to be successful on that first, so that I would catch the bug and want to keep doing it and keep growing bigger and getting better.
So flipping was kind of your first foray into the world of real estate, but of course now you're going into other asset classes such as apartments, which is what we do here at Dwelling as well. So of course there's a journey towards that. So you got this person that helped you, kind of partner, mentor, held your hand. You did your first deal, right? How was that first deal, and what did you do after that, right? I think that's really important because you might go into a particular strategy and feel like, oh, that's an interesting strategy. Maybe I don't want to do that. Or kind of what were your thoughts on that very first deal, and how did the deal itself go?
So actually, before I even bought a house, I got involved in lending first. So I got involved in private lending. So one of my early jobs was in mortgage banking, and I was always curious about money and how the world of mortgages and real estate finance worked. I felt like if I could master that, then that would help me along my journey to becoming financially independent. So while I'm learning about mortgages and helping regular people buy houses and refinance, some friends of mine had actually started flipping houses, and that's what really kind of got me going on the flipping path, because I was helping them fund some of their deals. And so I would fund the transaction, they would return the money back to me several months later, and then we would do it again. And I was like, hey, these guys have kind of figured it out, so I bet I can figure it out too.
I like that. Awesome.
um, yeah, so the first deal, it was actually a buy and hold for me. I was really interested in the passive side of things. I didn't I had a job. I didn't want another job. I wanted to get rid of the job that I had. So passive investing made the most sense to me. So off the top of my head, I think we bought the house, and had like a 15% cash on cash return going in, and then also had quite a bit of equity in it once we finished the rehab. So held on to that one for a number of years, and then eventually got rid of it and moved on to something a little bit better.
Nice, fascinating. So one thing that we haven't talked about is before you actually went into the mortgage business, you actually had a job in a pretty, in one of, like, I think a Fortune 500 company, and then the recession hit, and then you lost your job. How did you bounce back from that, time in your life? I can only imagine. I mean, we saw, the news with folks carrying the boxes out of, Wall Street offices. And I mean, how was that? How was that moment in your life for you?
Yeah, that was a tough one for me. I can still vividly remember getting called into my boss's office, and then he shortly thereafter telling me I had to go, and I really didn't understand why. I was a good performer at their company, and that was really tough because most people from a young age, you learn that you go to school and then you go to college and you get good grades also that you can get this great job. And I had a great job at a global Fortune 500 company, and I was pretty proud of what I had accomplished. And then to just suddenly get laid off, that came as a big surprise, and it was hard to deal with mentally for sure. But it also opened up a lot of opportunity for me as well, because it allowed me to reflect on what had happened, how I wanted my life to proceed from that point on, and really develop a plan on how I could really, track down financial freedom and have more control over my life, and not, let another person tell me when and where I had to be, and if I was allowed to take vacation or not take vacation. That just sounded like way too much control over my life. So I was ready to get rid of that as fast as I could.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So the other thing you mentioned was you were going to this, RIAs. You were meeting with some of the veterans who are probably buying houses, every other week or every other month. They knew what they were doing, and you kind of just piggyback on that track record and experience to help yourself get to where you wanted to get to. So finding mentors and having partners is a crucial piece to this puzzle, right? To this game called real estate investing. What would you say to somebody out there looking to find mentors, right? They might think, well, I don't really have any money, plus I don't really have any knowledge, right? To teach this guy that's buying, a house per week, right? Like, what are your thoughts? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, so I think it really starts with getting involved in these groups and these organizations. And then as you get involved, you're going to find out who the players are, who's actually, talking the talk and walking the walk. There's a lot of people out there in the industry that, are great salesmen and great talkers, but not a lot of them actually can do what they say. And I think the more time that you spend in these groups and around these people, you're going to find out the person who's, always talking about the deal that they're doing, or, always talking real estate, or wants to, meet with people so that they can share their knowledge. So really it's finding these people and then seeing what you can do to help them. So a lot of instances, in the single family space, a lot of these people are looking for somebody to, maybe go drive for dollars for them, or to make some phone calls for them to some prospective owners. So there's always something that these people need help doing. They usually have, big operations, or they have a lot going on in their life, and they can just use a little help. And if you're able to get this knowledge from these successful individuals pretty much for free, and just make a little bit of a time commitment, I mean, that's a huge win in my opinion.
Fascinating. Thank you so much for that. So I got to talk about financial independence, financial freedom. That term has been obviously thrown around a lot. When people hear that term, they're like, wait, is this person like a billionaire with like a yacht and like beautiful Ferraris and, just traveling every time and drinking the best champagne? What is financial independence? What is financial freedom? What does that mean to you? And what do you think that should mean to other people?
So really, financial independence is when you are not reliant on a job to pay your bills and to survive. It's when you've created some sort of a business, or some sort of an income stream, or multiple income streams, which cover your living expenses, that are able to cover, the things that you need to survive and the things that you want. So really, once you hit that point, then you really aren't reliant on a job. You're self-sufficient, so to speak. So you kind of are at that point where I like to say you have enough. You know, you've decided what you need to have a good life, and you reach this point where you're able to meet that, you know, on a monthly basis. And really, I think that opens up a lot of new options for people. You know, they're able to kind of take a step back, and they have a lot more time. You know, I know when I hit financial freedom, I took a year off and went and traveled the world, and that really gave me, you know, a lot of time that I haven't had before to really reflect back on my life and what I kind of saw, you know, I wanted my mission to be in life. And so that allowed me to look at the world and see where I thought there was problems and opportunities where I could help people. And so I think as you reach financial freedom, you naturally are going to want to start helping others more. You're gonna be focused on, you know, what we would call your legacy, so to speak, on how you can leave your mark on the world and make it a better place.
Right. It's kind of like that, you know, Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? You know, to self-actualization, where you've got to a point where you're not just thinking about your next meal or, you know, if you have, you know, food in your house or a roof over your head, you're thinking about how can I help others? How can I add value to the world? Yeah, that is fascinating. I definitely can't wait to hear some of your traveling stories and where you've been. I'm an avid traveler too. So yeah, what would you say is your? I'm kind of curious actually. Where's the most exciting place that you've been?
Well, we did a couple months in Europe and then a couple months in Asia before the pandemic hit. But one of the first things that we did is we walked across northern Spain. So there's a well-known, I guess you would call it a hiking trail that starts in southern France, and then it goes all the way to the west coast of Spain, and it's called the Camino Dance de Santiago. And it's a 550-mile walk across Spain, where, you know, you walk maybe 10 miles a day, and then you come to a little town, and, you know, you take off your backpack and put up your feet and have a glass of wine and, you know, relax, and then, you know, hang out with some of the other travelers, and then get up the next morning and do it all over again. And it was, you know, really cool and kind of unique experience that I wouldn't have gotten to have if I was tied to that job. You know, I'd be fighting with my employer about trying to get those 2 to 3 weeks off. You know, and that just wouldn't cover it. You know, we wanted to slow travel, kind of, so to speak, so that we could, you know, take our time and really get to know the culture and get to know the people and have a different experience.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, I wish I can keep talking to you, Todd, but we're definitely dwelling into the quick round. These are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready, sir?
Let's do it.
All right. First question. What makes you, Todd, unique? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next guy or from the next girl?
So I would say that I'm disciplined. You know, I have a routine, and my fiance hates it that I have a routine sometimes, because I'm so regimented in kind of the steps that I take to set myself up for the day. Because I know that if I'm taking these steps, then I'm kind of creating that positive momentum that I need in order to accomplish my goals. So I would say being dedicated and kind of having that regiment.
Geniuses also had routines, by the way. That's why my wife always wonders. She always says, "You do the same thing." I'm like, so far, I'm not waking up and drinking a beer and smoking, doing things that would kill me every day. If I'm waking up and doing my 3 mile run, I think I'm good. So yeah, please,
That's right.
we definitely share that in common.
That's right. We could be doing lots of worse things.
Exactly. Second question. What was the last book that you read? And what was the one thing you picked up from that book?
So a friend of mine um, referred some Zig Ziglar books to me, and he's kind of I guess an older author. He's been around, or, you know, he wrote maybe 20-25 years ago, and the one I'm reading right now is called "See You at the Top." And his main message is that if you can help enough people get what they want, they in turn will help you get what you want. And he makes an interesting point in that, you know, if you are, let's say you're a basketball player, and you step out onto the basketball floor, but there's no goals. So if you're a basketball player and there's no goals, how do you score? How do you win? How do you succeed? So I would you know, say the same thing in life. If you don't have goals in life, how do you win? How do you succeed? So I'm stealing that from him, but I just think that's very eye-opening in how important, you know, having goals are.
Yeah, totally agree. Last thing, which we probably talked about actually, what do you do for fun?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I love to travel, but my second favorite thing to do really is exercise. So when I can combine travel and exercise, like we got to do in Spain, then that's like my happy point. I can pretty much do that all day, every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, between travel and exercise, you know, that takes up the majority of my time.
Awesome. Well, if there's somebody listening and going, wow, I really like this Todd guy, or maybe I want to chat with Todd, you know, what is the best place people can get connected, know you more?
Yeah, so by day, I am a financial coach or a money coach, and my website is tightwadetodd.com. And I'm really focused on helping people achieve their own version of financial freedom, whatever that may be, and to achieve their financial goals faster and sooner so that they can, you know, maybe work on some other passions and contribute to the world and help make it a better place and however they see fit.
Todd, you're a legend. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Have a great day.